Hey everyone, happy Thursday night. Y'all, it's the last Thursday in March. Welcome to Live with Lisa. I'm super excited to have a guest tonight. Please go ahead and make sure that you like and share. Make sure that you let people know that we're on and that they need to come into the room. I did a short live earlier, giving a little preamble about what we're going to talk about tonight with my beautiful guests. Listen, we're talking about sexual health, HIV, and STDs. Yes, I said it. Did you hear me? Yes. And so whether it makes people uncomfortable or not, this is life-saving information. So let's get into it. My guest tonight is Lynette Trawick. Hey, Lynette.
Yes. Hi, how are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm super excited about I met her a few weeks ago. I saw her here in Orlando with one of our partners, Let's Beehive. Her and her husband came and spoke, and it was just amazing. And so I was like, I have to introduce her to our people. They have got to hear her story. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. I'm excited.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited as well.
Yeah, me too. So when we do like our pre-meet, we kind of have a conversation and talk about what we're going to be addressing and stuff like that. Let me just tell you, Lynette did not come to play with y'all tonight, okay? Lynette came to tell y'all the truth about life, about sexual health, about HIV and STIs. And so we're letting our guards down. So I encourage you to do the same. When you pop in here, hey from Canada, hey from New York, let us know where you're tuning in from so we can say hey. So we are going to get right to it. All right. So Lynette, just give me don't give me the whole thing, but tell me just a little bit about yourself, just a little bit.
Sure. So the fun stuff. I am a wife, and my husband and we've been married for what is it? Oh goodness, now he's the one that remembers all the time, the years and stuff. But we've been married 8 years, together almost 9, and it's been amazing. We have 11 awesome children. Yeah, and life. We both are business owners. We are new to the Maryland area from Philadelphia. Born and raised, both of us born and raised in Philadelphia, and just made a God move here to Maryland. And here we are.
Awesome. I see somebody said Philly in the house.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and don't mind me over here. And don't mind me over here. I'm connected with making sure I share the good, share the live and everything over here.
Awesome. I'm excited. Okay, so listen, we're going to get right into it. Okay, so I want to talk about, we're not going to tell them like all the details just yet. I know that you're a survivor of domestic violence. All right.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that part of your story, Lynette.
So, survivor of domestic violence, that is something that I never thought that I would be able to say. So I was in a relationship back in 2007, 2008-ish, where it was a domestic violence relationship. And it kind of eased on me. Domestic violence usually doesn't start with the severe stuff. It just kind of started from little pushes, hitting stuff near me and things like that until it escalated to, severe things like black in both eyes and, really serious stuff. So yeah, that was kind of the brief experience that I had, and it was all types of abuse, and I feel like the physical abuse was much less as far as the lasting effects than the verbal and the spiritual abuse was. I dealt with financial abuse, just every sense of the word abuse I had to deal with, but the physical, those scars faded much quicker than everything else.
Yeah, and people really do say that. When you were in the relationship, did you realize that you were in an abusive relationship?
No, of course not. I made every excuse in the world until I realized that that's what it was. And at what
point did you realize that you were in an abusive relationship?
When I started cutting everybody off. When I started feeling ashamed about the relationship, when I started making excuses for things that he was doing, when I started I remember having a conversation with him about what should I tell people, because I have a black eye right now. What should I tell people when they see me? And we're together trying to come up with this story about what I'm going to tell people.
Wow.
I remember that day clearly, and it was like, am I really sitting here discussing with the person who did this to me how I can help cover it up for him? Wow. That's when I knew I was in an abusive relationship.
Wow. That's really a powerful statement, what you just said. I'm asking him, What do I do? What do we do to cover up what you did to me? You know, it
Yeah.
kind of sounds like an out of body experience, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I know that you shared with me too, throughout the relationship, you found out that he was cheating on you in the
Yeah.
relationship. And how did
Yeah.
you deal with that? How did you find out that that was happening?
Ugh. Um, I kind of knew. I knew because he would disappear at night. He would disappear overnight. He would get phone calls, and I could tell by the conversation it was a female that he, in the beginning, he would try to speak in code to say, I can't talk right now, and then eventually it just turned into him having regular conversations next to me. Um, so I knew what he was doing, but just as the abuse was, that progressed over time. Just like the the abuse progressed over time, just like the infidelities progressed over time.
And when you're realizing that, that your partner is cheating on you and he
Yeah.
would come home and did you ever second guess being intimate with him again, having sex with him again? Did you ever second guess that?
Realistically, no. Um, at the time, STIs or STDs in my world was something you can take a pill for, something you can get a shot for. So in order to not even have that conversation and potentially deal with more abuse, I said, whatever, I'm going to take it. And if I got to go take a pill, if I got to go get a shot, then that's just what I'll do. I'd rather do that than deal with the conversation of why are you cheating on me, or we're not having sex, or let's use a condom. I didn't want to address those conversations because I was afraid of what might happen afterwards.
Yeah, you know what? I want to talk about that, just dissect that a little bit, because I think that's really powerful. And I think that that's really going to resonate with a lot of survivors who are listening, who are in the relationship or who have left the relationship. I know they're cheating on me. I know
Yeah,
they're sleeping with somebody outside of that. But
yeah,
if I do say it, I'm going to suffer more abuse. If I do, it's going to cause more pain than anything else. I'm going to be quiet. So,
yeah.
when you think about now, when you think about that mindset or thought process, what do you feel or think when you think about that?
um, I wish I would have known then what I know now. I wish, and not even in a sense of STDs, but in a sense of knowing who I am. I wish I would have known that I was a treasure. I wish I would have known that I had so many resources around me that I hadn't tapped into. I wish I would have known that, I should love myself more and that I was worthy of so much more. And that's what I reflect on when I think about those times. I just wish I would have been in a space to love myself just a little bit more. You know, um, that's what it makes me think about.
I think that's really powerful. And I really hope that whoever's watching really gauges that, the importance and the self-esteem and the self-awareness and the self-love, how important it is to decisions that we make that can be so impactful to our lives and for the rest of our lives.
Yeah,
So it's really interesting. I'm going to go back when you said, instead, I knew that I could take a pill or I could
yeah,
get a shot, and I would rather accept that than the abuse, right? And I want people to hear this. So when people are looking and they're like, well, what are you talking about? You knew they were treating. Why didn't you? But
yeah,
you had to weigh your own physical health,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Or versus your physical health, and mental
exactly.
health when it came to the abuse.
Yeah, yeah, and it was just so much easier to just deal with it in that way. That was really a tough time, and for me it was like I was risking potentially being alone. That was my fear over anything else. I wasn't the abuse, the diseases, the viruses, the all of that stuff. I could deal with that stuff, but I couldn't deal with being alone.
Wow.
So I can't address the situation with him. I can't tell him he has to leave, and I stress he has to leave because even crazier, this was my place. I was paying the bills. I was working. He was not working. I was doing all of that. But that's what made the shame even worse.
Wow.
You know, that's what made the situation worse because I was always the one saying, "Oh, I wish a guy would. I would never be in a situation like that. Girl, you crazy to let him put you through that mess." I was that one to always say that. And now here I am in a situation. How do I now navigate that conversation with other people? How do I reach out for help knowing that I was the one to say, "Girl, I would never." So I was further shaming myself and digging myself in deeper.
That's really powerful. You talk about two components there, being alone. And I know that that's a huge fear for a lot of survivors. It's being alone. You're frozen. Let me see if you come back to me. She's still frozen, y'all? Come back. Okay, there you are. She's back. Are you back? Can you hear me? Maybe let's see. Is she frozen, y'all? Or is it just on my end? Somebody talk to me. Hey, Jamaica's in the house. Hey, Jamaica. Let me know. Is she frozen? Am I frozen too? Frozen. Okay, thanks, Shar. Let's see. She froze. Okay, thank you. It's in and out. Okay, thanks, Ariel. Okay, you're back. Are you back?
All right. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, she's back. Y'all let us know she's back. Yes? I'm not. Okay. Oh, perfect. She's back. So I can see that means they can too. Okay. So you made a couple of really good points. Thanks, Joanna, about being alone. And I think that's something that survivors really struggle with. And we're going to be honest with ourselves, right? Because by the time we've gotten into an abusive relationship, our self-esteem and our self-worth is so all over the place that this one person who loves us, right?
Yeah.
We don't want them to leave us. And that's, she's gone. She's back.
My apologies.
Okay, are you back? You're good?
I'm good. I pressed the chat button and then the back button. That's why I hate working with my phone instead of my laptop. But, we're good.
That's not working. That's okay. Okay, so let's get back to it. So we're talking about how some survivors really struggle with the concept of being alone. The abuser has really messed with our emotions, messed with our self-esteem to the point where they seem to be the person that is going to be the only one to love us. And
that's what was told to me repeatedly. Nobody else is going to love you. Nobody else is going to want you. You have 2 kids and 2 baby dads, and who's going to want you? So constantly hearing that, it was already reaffirming all of the mess that was already in my own head,
So you stayed with the abuse, right? And I really want people to hear this, especially people who are not in abusive relationships. When they ask the questions of why don't they leave? Why don't they leave? Because they break you down so low to the point where you're willing to accept things that you probably normally wouldn't be. And I know that when you shared a part of your relationship with me, you talked about how quickly the relationship progressed, how instantly, it just, everything went so fast.
It did. That was, I always say, like, I just had a realization a couple of years ago that the relationship was only about 8 months, but it was the longest 8 months of my life. It felt like 8 years, and it was horrible. It was horrible. And just to think about how quickly my children had to grow in those 8 months, and the things that they had to see. And my oldest son is now, he'll be 20 in July. And he just told me a couple of years ago how all of that still impacts him, and that was, oh my goodness, my baby was 5 at the time, So
did
it's so easy.
Did you think at the time that it was impacting your children at all? Did you?
No, because they're little and they don't know what's going on, and they didn't see him hit me until like the very end. They didn't hear how he was talking to me. So no, I never thought that it would impact him. And I think it was just a few years ago I was at a speaking engagement and my son was with me, and I'm speaking and I sharing my story just as I usually do when he's with me, and he had to be about 16, and I look over at him in the audience and he just breaks down like he's mad and he's red and holding his fist together. And I'm looking at him like, what, did somebody here bother him? What's going on? Because he never had that reaction before. So I finished speaking and I took him outside and I said, well, what happened? What's going on? And he said, Mom, every time you tell that story, I go back to when I was a little kid and I couldn't defend you.
Wow.
And it's like,
wow. He was 5.
He was 5. Here we are 16 and he had never had this reaction before.
Wow.
It's like,
I want to talk about that really for a second, because I think that a lot of times we want to believe that our children aren't hearing and seeing and knowing what's going on. But that 5-year-old is a 20-year-old grown man now. He was 16. He had a physical reaction to remembering what happened to his mother. Right. And so, we talk about staying for the children or leaving for the children or whatever. It's just the thought process that understand your children are seeing and sensing and hearing and knowing what is going on.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. And I mean, again, I had my children. I stayed. I left for my children. I stayed for my children. So there's this whole blurry line between what am I going to do? Right.
Yeah.
So we know the way that abusers are post abuse with children. But anyway, so let's move forward. We're talking about you're in this relationship for 8 months. It escalates. Yeah, somebody said they never forget either. Just like we don't ever forget, right?
Yeah,
And so
yeah,
people, we try to separate that it just happened to us. It happened to our children too.
yeah, yeah.
And that's
Definitely. There is no separation. And my youngest child, she was a baby. She was about 1 at the time. And I don't know if there has been any lasting effects. I would think possibly. Like, although we can't recall conscious memory at that time, I'm sure some of those things stuck, you know?
yeah. I hope that message gets really clear to some survivors that are listening that have
Yeah.
children. And so you said you knew that he was cheating on you. So you knew that, and he was bringing you back all these, but you were taking a shot. You
Yep.
took pills, and you were going to be okay. It was
Yep.
easier to do that than to talk to him about, what he was cheating or not wanting to sleep with him. Or you even saying, let's use this condom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would never say that. I would never say that in that relationship. I remember coming to him. I spoke to him one time when he gave me chlamydia. I spoke to him one time and he blamed it on me. And what are you out there doing? And how do I know you are where you say you are? And I said, I'm never talking to him again. And the unfortunate matter about that is, how do I even know? Okay, I'm taking my medicine now for chlamydia, but if you're not taking anything, we could just be passing this back and forth, you
Yeah.
know? And that was the first of a few STIs that I contracted within that relationship.
Wow. That's powerful. And the thing is, it happens so often in relationships, period, but especially relationships where abuse is taking place and the abuser is being it had infidelity, they're cheating. And then they
Yeah,
come home to the partner who lives in fear of them, right?
yeah,
And so there's a lot of sexual abuse that takes place inside of domestic violence relationships, right?
yeah.
So when you talk about so tell us a little bit about how your diagnosis came about and what that diagnosis is.
hmm So I remember, like I said, I had contracted a number of different STIs within that relationship, from chlamydia to trichomonas to gonorrhea, all within that relationship. Never had the courage to leave. I remember sometime in the summer of 2008, things just got really crazy. He destroyed my apartment. He destroyed my children's furniture. It was a mess. I remember sitting in my window, and like, I remember this clearly. I was sitting in my window and I was in a third story apartment, and he kept threatening. He said, if you don't move, I'm going to throw you out of the window. And I sat there because in my head, the better option was for him to throw me out of this window where someone would possibly see me, rather than moving from this window where someone wouldn't.
Wow.
Because by that point, I had cut everyone off. Nobody was probably going to check on me because I had disappeared. And so that day, he wound up getting arrested for something else. A neighbor had called the police or something, I guess, for all the noise. And he wound up getting arrested because of another warrant, something else that he had done. And eventually he wound up leaving. But not too long before that, I had gotten really, really sick. And I remember him taking care of me. And like, mandarin oranges, how sometimes smells create memories. Mandarin oranges take me back to that time when I was really, really sick, because I remember craving them and I wanted to eat them, but then they made me sick. I had a stomach virus, strep throat, the flu. I was dehydrated and my blood pressure was low. I went to the hospital. They treated me for each individual thing, never tested me for anything else. The relationship ended in June or July of that year. November, I went for my annual GYN exam, and as always, every year, I always told them, check everything, give me all the tests, HIV tests, whatever. The next day, I got a phone call telling me to come into the office, and that's when he told me that my HIV test came back positive. That was the last thing that I would have ever thought, because HIV wasn't real to me in my world. You know, I didn't know any other young Black women with HIV, or at least young Black women thriving and surviving and living life. And, everyone that I saw on TV and in the movies and things like that were sad and depressed and in the hospital, and nobody looked like me. So it's like that was the furthest thought from my head. But yeah, I was diagnosed and I was terrified, because now here I am in a situation where, okay, I'm out of this relationship and I'm starting to try to get into the dating world. But now, how do I navigate with this? I'm 26. I have children. I'm working. I'm going to school. Where does HIV fit in there? What do I do with this? How do I have that conversation with guys, the guy that I started dating? So it was scary because now here I am facing possible isolation again. Because in my head,
Yeah.
nobody's going to want me with HIV. So forget about before. My self esteem was already jacked up, thinking nobody was going to want me. But now add HIV into the mix, nobody's really going to want me now. So
That's powerful. Thank you for sharing
yeah,
that. Said thank you for sharing your story with us in the comments. So you guys break up. It's over. You get tested your annual. So I just want to emphasize this, and I want to emphasize it. Get tested. I repeat, get tested and ask them
get
for the whole
tested.
video. I don't care if it's just one partner. Say it again, please, Lynette. Let them know.
Get tested. And mind you, HIV sometimes is not part of that regular panel. So you could say, give me the panel, but also give me the HIV test. And keep in mind, annual is not always enough. So, and I hate this term, but for lack of better term, I can't
Go
think
back.
of
You
it.
broke up a little bit. You said annuals don't always what?
Annual exams is not always enough. Annual HIV test is not always enough. And I hate the term risky behavior, but just for lack of better term, I can't think of anything else. But if you're having multiple sexual partners, if you believe your partner has multiple sexual partners, if your partner is, living with HIV, things like that, if you're an IV drug user, different situations like that, the more often you should be tested. So you should get tested every 3 months if you're participating in risky behavior. So for instance, my husband is HIV negative and he gets tested every
She's
3 months.
married. She's married, by the way, y'all. We ain't tell
I
y'all
am
that.
married.
She
I'm
is married.
married, very happily married.
And her
And my
partner
husband
is.
is
Go ahead.
HIV negative. He's HIV negative, but he gets tested every 3 months. But
That's what's
we use
recommended, right?
that is
If you
what's
have multiple
recommended for him.
partners, or you think that other people or your partner has multiple partners. Did I say that right?
Exactly.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. Okay. So it's
Yep.
very. I want to go back to something really quick. You talked about how even after getting those 3 STIs, you still didn't have the courage to leave. And so I just
Yeah.
want to go back to that real quick. And I just want to take a second to really empower women, right? About taking care of your personal sexual health. It is critically important that you take control of that, right? Because
Yeah.
they've messed with you so much that you're like, you know what, I'm just still gonna stay. What would you say to someone who may be experiencing that right now? Because I'm telling you right now,
Yeah.
it's happening. You already know.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. So the best I can do, it's so easy to say, listen, girl, just leave. Listen, man, just leave because it's not only us women in abusive relationships.
Absolutely.
So it's so easy for someone to say just leave, but it's not always that simple. So what I would suggest is for you to protect yourself in any way possible that you can while you're in that relationship. So you have female condoms, which a lot of people don't know about. Unfortunately, they're not as accessible as male condoms, but that is a way to be able to protect yourself. You can talk to your doctor. They can write a prescription for the female condom. You can actually insert that several hours before a sexual act. So you can put that in without your partner even knowing. So that's one way to be able to protect yourself. So make sure you're going to go get tested. Make sure, if you guys are using condoms, continue to use condoms. Just different, just protect yourself. If you're not at the point where you are ready to leave the relationship, which of course is the recommendation, but we're not always there immediately.
Absolutely.
Just do what you can to protect yourself.
Yeah,
Don't cut yourself, don't isolate yourself. Hold on to at least one person that you can trust.
yeah.
Okay. So then that way you won't feel weird when you go reaching out to somebody and saying what's going on.
And if you're listening and you have a relationship or know someone who's in an abusive relationship, she talks about being so isolated, right? And how with the HIV diagnosis, she would feel more isolated. So I just want to encourage you, still reach out to them because you said that you were sitting in the window and he said he's going to push you out the window. And you thought to yourself, no one is going to come look for me.
Yep.
Right. And so what I heard when you said that, I thought that we have to remember to check on survivors no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah.
No matter what. You may feel that they don't want to leave or they don't care what you're saying, but I'm telling you, still reach out to them because that phone call could be that one.
Yeah. Somebody's in a new relationship and they just disappear. I don't care how happy they may seem. Check on them every once in a while. Hey, girl, my best friend is actually commenting on here every once in a while. Philly Joinpreneur is on here. And
Yes.
she was the one, I knew that I don't care how many times I would not reach out to her. She would always, hey girl, just thinking about you. So I knew no matter what, that's the one I could reach out to if something's going on. So even if you think somebody's in a happy relationship, and they just playing and they just fronting and they just gonna cut me off because they with this new man. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors, so still show love.
Please stay connected. Show love. I love a good best friend. Let me tell you. Just send a
Yeah,
text to them, shoot a phone call, shoot an email over to them. Let them know that you haven't forgotten about them because they feel as though they've been forgotten about. So that's really,
yeah,
really important. You connected that isolation of the domestic violence to the isolation to the HIV diagnosis. And again, HIV for some reason, and I really, really wanted Lynette to touch on this too, because we don't see it in the news anymore,
yeah.
especially this generation, because around my age, HIV was out there. You had all the people who had HIV and all that kind of stuff, and it was a thing. But now it
Hmm.
seems to have like disappeared somewhere in the background, but it is still very prevalent. We
Yeah.
live in Florida, and it's the statistics are high here for
Hmm.
HIV infection. So be aware that it is still out there.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely out there. And I think it's just the image that the media puts out, and that's the reason that people don't think about it. Because
Yeah,
it's out there, it's been out there, we have more commercials now about like you see the commercials about PrEP and
yeah,
Biktarvy and different HIV medications and things like that, but you don't see me on those commercials, you
no,
know.
no,
They don't look like us. So
no.
we push those commercials away. How many times have we seen those happy herpes medications commercials with people riding horses on the beach and everything? They don't look like me. I don't ride no horses on no beach. So I'm
Yeah,
not thinking about it,
yeah.
So
Not thinking
it's
that it
not
affects. Yeah,
it,
absolutely,
it's it's not
absolutely.
affecting my community because I don't see it. You're not putting that out there for me to see. I'm not connecting with this gay white man,
Yeah.
that's on this show. So
And it's
yeah,
so true. Listen, get tested. When you go to the doctor, right? And even if your partner, say if you ask for the partner to stay outside or you're able to go without them, get tested every
yeah,
3 months. If you're in a relationship and you're not sure if there's infidelity or you're not sure what they're doing, get tested. Get
yeah,
tested. And also, Lynette gave some ways, and she's going to give some more moving forward about ways to protect yourself. See, one of the
yeah,
things about being in an abusive relationship is you don't have control, right? And so not having control, she told me so she'll be right back, right? So not having control is really important once you leave the relationship. And so making sure that you take, are you there?
yes, I'm here. I'm
Oh,
connecting my charger.
I was gonna say, I bet you your phone is dying.
Yes,
And so
I was using my phone initially.
I know we had to put on her computer at first and it was blurry, but making sure that you take care of your own body, right? Not being afraid to say, hey, let's use this before we do anything. And that's really,
Hmm.
really important. It is. And even if you have to protect yourself and them not know it, protect yourself.
Yes, yes, 100%.
So let's
That's
talk
and
about go, no, go.
no, go ahead. No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I was going to say, let's talk about the fact that you are living your entire best life, right? With an HIV diagnosis.
Yeah,
You got married
yeah,
after you
yeah.
had your HIV diagnosis. So how did you go about telling your partner, your husband, about your HIV diagnosis?
So my husband was one of my best friends prior to our relationship beginning. Our friendship was 5 years. Our friendship was 5 years before the relationship. So we grew a tight bond. So he actually knew. So we met in October 2008. I was diagnosed in November 2008.
Mm,
I told my then best friend in 2012 about my diagnosis. Our relationship began in 2013.
mm,
So what I think it was about 8 months or something later that our
mhm.
relationship began. And in 2014, which was 6 months after our relationship started, we got married.
Wow.
So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah,
I
it
love
was.
it.
But I think
So how did you
just
tell him?
I told him in a text message. Um, so and like I said, we were tight like this, but it was still that just goes to show this was 4 years after my diagnosis, and I still was uncomfortable talking about it.
And how did he
Um,
react to it? I mean, obviously, it was fine because you're married for 8 years.
well, yeah, I think his reaction. So I actually sent him. I was interviewed. I had done an interview during the AIDS walk in Philly, and I didn't realize that that interview was happening with one of the big newspapers and big websites in Philadelphia. And so the following day it was printed, and people started calling me, Lynette, I saw this article. Is this true? I'm like, oh, God.
Oh my
So I
goodness.
took the time to send that link to several people, and that was my way of disclosing. And Daniel was one of them. That's my husband's name, Daniel. He was one of them, and he was more upset with how I told him. He's
Okay.
like, we're friends, and you should have told me a while ago. And things like that. But that was the way that I was comfortable telling.
Yeah.
That was the way I was comfortable disclosing. But obviously, he got over that part.
He did.
He has been one of my biggest supporters. He pushed me to live my best life, as you said. He pushed me to start my organization and write a book and talk about it and do all of the things because I was never comfortable doing that in previous relationships. It was always don't talk about HIV. People know we together. You can't be out there talking about HIV because then they're gonna think I have it. You
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
So I was never comfortable discussing it until Daniel came along. So
I love
yeah,
that. Pushed you into your
yeah,
purpose. Because the truth
yeah,
of the matter is, Lynette, the work that you do is life saving. People need to know,
yeah.
number one, that yes, I have an HIV diagnosis and I'm still living my best life. I'm married
Hmm.
to a man who does not have an HIV diagnosis, and we're still
Yeah.
happy and we have a great
Hmm.
relationship. Because one thing that abusers will do, whether it's an STD or HIV or anything else, they will
Hmm.
use that to keep the survivor in the relationship and use it to control them.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I've been there as well. I've allowed HIV to hold me hostage in relationships in the past. So prior to my husband, like I said, it had been 4 years before he came along. So I was dating other people. He was dating other people. Like I said, we were best friends. And I felt so stuck because, here I am with this person and he won't allow me to go and do anything. This person wants me to come and do a speaking engagement, but I can't because this might be televised or y'all might put it on Facebook and everybody knows I'm with him. And he told me he don't want to, or even worse, I would subject myself to just, oh, well, he accepts me with HIV, so I got to accept his crap too.
Mm,
No,
right,
no.
right, right. So because of the diagnosis, you were actually still minimizing who you were, accepting
Yeah.
things you normally wouldn't.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
So now
powerful.
that's one of the key things that I always talk to my ladies about now that I I do peer counseling. So that's one of the things that I talk to with my ladies now. Like, had HIV not been a factor, would
Mhm.
this be something that you would put up with? And they
Wow.
always sit and think like, you know what? No. Like, okay, well then,
Right. So
bye.
don't put up with it because of that. That's a really powerful statement. That's
Yes.
powerful. Yeah.
Remove HIV or remove whatever it is that you're thinking about that this is the reason I'm in this relationship. Remove that. Would you still put up with it, whatever this situation is, had it
Yeah.
not been for that situation?
That's good. I mean, I can think about that being, well, I got 5 kids, or I got 3 kids,
Exactly.
I don't have a job, I'm not educated, I have HIV, whatever the case may be, I'm sick or whatever could be a reason to say.
Exactly.
I love that. She said, eliminate that thing or
Yep.
thing, and would you put up with the behavior that they're offering? So I
Hmm.
want to talk a second about like sexual health, right? So what are some things, how do you encourage people to protect themselves? I know you talked a little bit earlier about, and before I go back, I want to say this. Coming out of an abusive relationship, this is your body, ladies and gentlemen, right? And so you need to make sure that you take care of it and that you take control over it again, right? Because that
Yeah.
was been stripped from you. So focus
Hmm.
on doing that again. So what are some ways that they can do that when they get out of the relationship? You talked about the female condom.
Hmm.
Very, if it's not on the shelves, make sure you ask for it because it's available. What else would
Yes.
you suggest that they do?
Definitely just find yourself a support system. Get back out there, do the things that you like. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that you're gonna go back out there and jump into dating. You don't have to do that. But just start to understand and realize who you are again. Because being in an abusive relationship can definitely alter who you thought that you were. You
Absolutely.
know, that's something that I had to deal with after that relationship was over. Like, well, who am I? You
Mhm.
know, am I this thing that he told me that I was? Am I I had to rediscover who I was and grow into the person that I had become through this relationship because that never leaves you,
That's
you
very
know?
absolutely correct.
That
Absolutely.
never leaves you. There's so many things that I've carried from that relationship, both good and bad. So I'm embracing some of the things that I learned within that relationship as well.
You made a good point. You talk about how who am I now? So it's relearning yourself or learn and then realizing that you're not the same person. We don't go
Yeah,
back to being who we were post trauma. You can break a glass and put it back together. It is never going to be the same exact glass. It might still look
yep,
the same, but it is going to be different. And I think accepting that fact for us as individuals is really important. As survivors, it's really important. Um, okay, Amanda asked a great question. What if you have no idea what you like anymore?
I saw that. I was
Yeah,
looking
go
at
for
that
it.
just now.
Go
'Cause
for it.
but yes, if you don't know what you like anymore, that means you just got to go do more stuff.
Find it. Find
Listen,
it.
I love platforms like Facebook. I look under the events. One of my favorite things to do is I go on Instagram and I live in a small town in Maryland. I'll look up the name of my town and I'll look up, different little events that's going on. You just gotta just go for it. Just figure out what it is that you like, because you're right. Sometimes you lose that. You may not even like any of the things that you used to like before because of memories or whatever. But
Yeah.
rediscover that.
Yeah, rediscover you, and that's okay. It's totally fine to not know who you are, and I don't want you guys to look at that as a negative. Okay, so something negative happened to you, and when you look in the mirror, you may not recognize yourself, and that's okay. But it's like
Yeah,
being able to start over your story. What do I like?
yeah,
What don't I like? Like I started to
yeah.
go out by myself to the movies. I remember going to a restaurant by myself for the first time, and I
Oh
was
my
telling the
goodness, yeah,
survivor this, and I was like, oh my god, everyone is looking at me, and they're like, look at this loser, look at her eating
yeah.
by herself, and I was like, no one was thinking about me. And one
Wow.
of the best things, no one's thinking about me. So we get so in our
But
head,
then
and
they might be thinking about you. They may be saying, "Dag, I wish I could do that."
yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
You said something really important. You said, I wonder if I'm really all the things that he said I was. Right. And
yeah,
I thought that was really powerful. And the answer is no. We answered it for y'all. Don't worry.
yeah.
It's a lie.
Oh my
They
goodness,
don't
I struggle with that so bad. I struggle with that so bad. Like nobody's ever gonna want me, and like, oh, he was so right, and now here's HIV, so it was definitely right, and maybe I should just go back and get him again, or maybe I should. No,
no.
no, I am who God said that I am. I am
Absolutely.
powerful. I am beautiful. I am needed. I am loved. I am all of that.
That's
So
right. Absolutely. I love that.
I'm
Absolutely.
I'm big on affirmations. I will affirm myself to you.
Yeah,
So
because we
listen.
don't wait for somebody to do it for you, right?
Yeah,
Don't wait because
yeah,
we waited for them to tell us that we were enough every day, every moment, every incident, whatever. It's time for us to tell ourselves. I agree, Joanna. It is a fun process, scary,
yeah.
yes, but you realize you want to go horseback riding. That's just not my thing. You go bowling. That's my thing. You just
Yeah.
have to date yourself again and figure out what you like and what you don't like. One thing
Go
I
box,
always
go like go do some boxing. Like that's one of my things that I
something.
fell in love with. Boxing. I
Exactly.
love boxing in the gym.
Yeah,
Working
and
out. I fell in love with
it's a
working out in
stress
the past couple of
reliever too.
years. All of
Yeah.
that. Rediscover yourself, honey. Go ahead, have fun. Do all the things. I'll do them with you. You said you in Maryland. Inbox me.
Yeah. All right. Yes, inbox her. She's local and she's doing her thing. So I want to talk about so when you leave a relationship and you're dating again, which is really important because you're coming out of this relationship and maybe you haven't been with a lot of people or that person was your first relationship you've been in and you're like, well, what do I do? How do I navigate my sexual health after I leave an abusive relationship? And we're going to share with you just it's okay to have a condom and use it. It's okay for you
Yeah,
to be the one to say, I'm going to use this. And if we're not using it, we're not doing anything.
yeah, yeah. And that sounds so great. And I'm so grateful for how organically my husband and I began our relationship, because quite honestly, I was screwing it all up in the dating world. I was still hurting.
Yeah.
My husband is the one that helped me get over the hurt and helped me to get past the trauma. So like that's always a question that I'm kind of stuck on,
Mhm.
because I don't know what it looks like to really heal by myself first before you get into another relationship. After my diagnosis, I went crazy. I was partying, I was drinking, because I didn't know, and I didn't want to look like whatever HIV in my head looked like,
Yeah. But
you
that's really
know?
normal though, after diagnosis of such a significant, and again, the thought process of what an HIV diagnosis is, you're thinking, oh my goodness, my life, what's my life? Who's gonna want me? He's already so the HIV diagnosis really plays into the stigma of nobody
Yeah.
wanting you, like he said anyway.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So
I'm
someone
looking at.
said, I know when someone said it's awkward to go, it's hard to go anywhere alone anymore too. I feel yes, okay. So Amanda, so I understand coming out of isolation in an abusive relationship and doing things alone. But I think it's interesting being alone in a relationship, feeling alone while you have someone there,
Ooh,
and then choosing to be alone is something different, and you're in control of that. And so learning to enjoy your own company and liking the things that you do and liking what you see in the mirror. I mean, and also if you're not quite ready to go out by yourself, no pressure. Take a
yeah,
kid with you.
yeah,
Take a friend with you. Take your dog for a
yeah,
walk. You know,
yeah,
like you said, get around a group of people, some meetups or something, and get yourself to that point. It's something you have to build up to. I was terribly afraid to be alone.
yeah,
Terribly,
yeah,
terribly, and
yeah,
now I like it. Um, so okay, I love what you said. She said, I've been married. I didn't know how to heal myself on my own. I've been married 3 times. My husband provided safety for me to truly heal. And I really do believe that God sends people sometimes to help us in our
Yeah.
healing journey. And
Yes.
okay, so it'll be great. Okay, you heal by on your own and then you get in a relationship. Great. But that's not everybody's story. For
Mm-hmm.
example, for you and Mr. I
Mm-hmm.
can't pronounce your first name, but she talks about how her husband helped heal her.
Then
And
it's
there
Nazar.
all right, yes. And so there are people that you're going to meet along your journey that are going to help you heal. And if
Yeah.
that's your partner or your spouse, that's awesome. How
Yeah.
beautiful is that? You know, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's not something we can do on our own. So that person comes into our life to help us do it.
Yeah.
So let's see.
I
Go
used,
ahead.
I used to be envious of the ones who would say, "Oh my goodness, because I had after this crazy relationship, I healed and I was a whole person, and then I met my partner. That was the perfect time for me to meet my partner." I was like, "Yeah, I don't know what that looks like.
Like, she's
I
like, that
cannot. I
wasn't me.
can't. I can't. That's not my testimony. I came. My husband crying and snotting in a mess. Okay, but
Oh,
he came
yes.
a mess. He came a mess too.
Yeah.
He'll tell you. He'd be the first one to tell you we were both a mess, but we
Oh,
provided what each other needed.
yes.
So their healing just looked different for us than it did for other people, and that's okay.
I
Everybody
love
heals,
that.
like you said. Everybody heals in their own way.
Yeah,
So
and don't expect it to look like anybody else's healing,
yeah,
And for me, when I got out, listen, I didn't know. I mean, the first person, the man I married was the first person I ever loved, first person I ever been with. Girl, I knew nothing. I was clueless as a day
yeah,
is long. Like, I knew nothing. I didn't know how to date again. I didn't know how to
yeah,
take care of my sexual health. I didn't know how to take care of Lisa. I didn't know who I was. And so it's learning
hmm,
everything all over again. But there's no fear in that, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
getting yourself and educating yourself. And so that's why this live is so important. I want y'all to know and understand that you have the control to say, and this is the thing, I didn't know that I could say, here, use this, or I'm not doing this, or this is my body. I don't like
yeah,
this. I like this. Like, this is the conversation that in an abusive relationship you can't have.
yes, yes.
You don't
And
have
that
that.
yeah, you said, and you mentioned something about like sexual health as well. That's even a whole nother topic, because as women, a lot of us don't even know our bodies. We talk about, yeah, I would love to be in a relationship and say, oh, I like it, I like to be touched this way, and I like when you do it that way. But the reality is we don't know what we like because we never even explored in that way. You know, we don't
And it
have
wasn't a thing.
conversations. We don't have those deep conversations about loving ourselves and masturbation. That stuff is necessary so you can be able to say, listen, husband, this is what I like. Listen, partner, this is what I like. This is what I respond to. This is how and then even deeper, our body parts. We had a
Yeah.
conversation and it was funny at the time, but it's like, it's kind of sad that as women, a lot of times we don't
We're not
even know,
educated on it. It's as
we
though
don't
we're
know what's what down there. We,
no. We're
so I,
taught to receive and to please, but we're not taught to what's important to our own personal bodies.
yeah,
And coming out of an abusive relationship is even worse because some of us have been raped in our relationships, things
yeah,
have been used on us, things like,
yeah,
and the trauma is there. So when it comes to moving forward in a relationship, taking autonomy over your physical body is so very, very
yeah,
important. And you
yeah,
can't be afraid to do that. You can't be afraid to ask questions, talk to your doctor, figure out what's going on. I remember, yeah, that's a little TMI, but I remember going to the doctor like something is wrong,
yeah,
and he actually told me you're allergic because of the trauma that you're experiencing with your husband. There is something your body is reacting to that,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
so they told me what I needed to do, but I didn't realize even then that, okay, well, this is bad. This is abusive. Something is wrong. So I just want to encourage you to make sure. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. But it's like when you come out of the trauma, it's like, wait, I'm a person. What I feel matters and how I protect myself matters. And the thing we
yeah.
want to minimize STDs and STIs. I think we call
Mm-hmm.
it sexually
Yeah.
transmitted infections now. STDs
Infection.
are
Yeah.
right? No more STDs. Sexually transmitted infections. We want to eliminate HIV. If you can prevent it, she's sitting here. Lynette is telling you how you can prevent this, ways that you can help it. And there's
Yeah.
also so people are probably wondering, how is it like you're HIV positive, your husband
Mm-hmm.
is HIV negative? How does
Mm-hmm.
that work?
So there's this wonderful thing, this wonderful discovery that they had within the past few years called U equals U. And it means undetectable equals untransmittable. The levels of the virus in my system are undetectable, meaning they're so low, they're under 75 copies. So as long as a person who's living with HIV is undetectable, they absolutely cannot transmit HIV sexually to anyone else. So that is how my husband has stayed HIV negative this entire time. That
Is
is
it you
how
equals
all
you?
U equals U, just like that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
That is how all of our children are HIV negative. I had my youngest baby vaginal birth. Um, yeah, we chose the entire time to use treatment, what's called treatment as prevention. So as long as I stay on my medication, as long as I go get my lab work done and things like that. And I know, you know, knowing your status is for people who are living with HIV too. So I know my status. I know that I know that my HIV is undetectable, and my husband goes to get tested every 3 months. As long as we keep on that, then we're good.
I
And
love
that's not everybody's journey. There are other methods as well. They have PrEP, which is pre-exposure prophylaxis, where someone can take this one pill daily, just like a person who's living with HIV does. You have to take that pill daily, but it prevents you from contracting HIV.
and that's called PrEP. I know
That's
that's
called PrEP.
like PRE, capital P, I think. There it goes.
It's,
All right, Philly,
it's
hold on. Let me see this.
capital P, lowercase r, and then capital EP.
Okay.
Pre-exposure, yes.
I medicate HIV negative. Okay, awesome. Love that. Thank you. People saying they love your story. Thank you so much. All right. If you have anything, I know that's best friend there. If anything else that I can share on the screen, please put it there so I can get the people the information. So you're able to have a wonderful, healthy sexual relationship with your husband as an HIV positive woman, and he is an HIV positive, never had HIV man. Your children are all safe. You had a vaginal birth. I'm just trying to educate the people. I know I'm repeating myself, but I want them to know that it's possible. And oftentimes abusers will hold your diagnosis over your head. And I'm telling you, free yourself and allow yourself to heal and be loved and live your beautiful life. Somebody said, praise God. I love your story. So I wanted to ask you too. So you wrote a book. So I want to talk about IMU. What is IMU Inc.?
So IMU Inc. is my baby. That's my nonprofit. I started IMU. IMU began years ago, but IMU officially became a 501c3, which is a nonprofit, back in 2017. And we are a nonprofit that serves women who are living with HIV, mostly between the ages of 25 and 45 years old. And I chose to focus on us women, because we usually put ourselves last and everybody else first. But I said, we're going to focus on us here. Okay. And I do a lot around supporting, helping to build up their support system. So educating their children, educating their significant others, as well as I just do other methods of prevention. So not just talking about condoms and abstinence and things like that, but talking more from a self-worth perspective. Why are you displaying the behaviors that you're displaying? Going into the high schools, talking to the kids to hopefully prevent you contracting an HIV diagnosis in the future. Just from we don't even have to discuss HIV. Let's talk about everything else that you're dealing with. Yes, that boy pushed you up against the locker. You thought it was cute, but it's abuse. Things like that. So that's my baby. That's IMU.
I love you guys. Follow her on Instagram, IMU, to stay connected, to see what she's doing, to get education. I know you know someone who may be struggling with this, so please make sure that they follow her, they get all the information. You could just sit there and look on the low. No one even has to know. But I do have a question so I have a question. What if I have an STI, HIV, and I want to date again? How do I even begin the process?
So this disclosure is a big conversation. That's also something that I address within IMU. So disclosure, one of the main things I always say is the big question that you want to ask yourself is, why do you want to disclose? What you don't have to. For everybody's different. Some people go ahead and prefer to say, listen, I have HIV, I have an STI, whatever the situation is from the very beginning. That doesn't have to be for everyone. As for me, I'm living with HIV, but I'm undetectable. You have to also know your state laws. Some states require you to say that you are living with HIV prior to any kind of sexual relationship with anyone. Some don't. So, I'm undetectable. If I choose to not say anything in the beginning, I know that I am not putting my partner at risk sexually. So that, that's something that I can do. But always think about your why. Why did you choose to disclose to the person?
That was good. Thank you.
And you mentioned the book too. We need to educate teachers too.
So I want to touch on the book last, actually, so that people can directly go to it, because I'm excited and I'm waiting for my coffee. So, question was, how did you get yourself out of survival mode, fight or flight mode? They're stuck.
I hate to sound cliche, but literally it was time and God. And honestly, I was still in fight or flight mode in the beginning of my relationship with my husband. We, dealing with abuse in the past, anytime he raised his voice, I was like, oh, you got to go. Nope, you got to go. My husband laughs all the time. He's like, you kicked me out so many times, but he ain't never leave. I never let him leave.
And I think that's one thing, he showed consistency to you.
He did. He did.
You have to be in fight or flight mode.
He showed the love. He showed that wasn't him, but it was still like, but this is what he did. So I know it's coming. So now, because I allowed those little things to happen before and it led up to abuse, I'm just, once this one little thing happens now, oh, we got to go. But we
Yeah.
had to learn each other. We had to be patient with each other. He had to learn me and I had to learn him. Although we were friends, we had to learn each other in a relationship way now.
Yeah. They're saying still in fight or flight mode. And so, yeah, so just because, you've been out for a certain amount of time doesn't mean like it goes away, right? It doesn't.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
definitely
no.
time is really, really important. And I'm going to also say you got to do the work.
Yeah.
You got to put in the work. So I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to be in fear anymore. I don't want
And
to be in
listen, I'm a big advocate for therapy.
yes,
Find
ditto.
yourself a good therapist.
Yes.
Find yourself, whatever mental health resources you need to find. I am all for it.
Yep.
If you need to get on medication, if you need to
Yes.
stay on it forever, if you need to do it temporarily, I am an advocate for all things mental health support.
Yeah.
So go do it if you need to do it. Don't
And
be
connect
ashamed to
with
go get some resources.
yeah, and you talked about your faith. I know for me, my faith was really important in my healing journey, right?
Yes,
And
it
those
is.
are perfect. Healing is intentional. Like it just doesn't it doesn't just happen. Like, okay, so
No.
you definitely need time. We're not saying jump in a therapist chair as soon as you leave, but understand that you're going to get to the point where you want to function at a normal
Yeah.
way, but because of the trauma, you're really unable to. And I will say too, I've been remarried 6 years, and honey, I still like no Kurt, don't slam no doors. I don't like no loud noise. All of that. It's
Yeah.
like we talk about the bodies keep score. My body remembers, right, what
Yeah.
happened to me. And so even though I know that I'm safe, there's still a little processing that has to go on when incidents occur. So
Yeah.
I'm always looking on my shoulder. Okay. And so I'm glad you're on medication and that's okay. That's perfect. If that is helping you maintain and
Yep.
do good, that's good.
Yep.
Okay, good. Go look that up. Let's see. Awesome. Okay. Anybody have any questions before? I want to talk about her book, y'all. Okay. So it's called From Diagnosis to Destiny. So I was on your Facebook page earlier and you talked about, and you wrote this quote and I was like, oh my God, that's so good. So tell us about this book. Why did you decide to write it?
Ooh.
Okay, let me
I
just go
don't know
back
who
because
told me to.
everybody doesn't talk about the HIV diagnosis to the level that you do. Like, what were you thinking? How were you like, I'm going to
I
let
don't know
people
who
know?
told me to write this book. Let me tell you. I don't know who did this. But I wanted to share my story more than just being on a stage for a 30-minute session or, things like that. I wanted something tangible for people to be able to go back and look and say, oh goodness, okay, this is me right here. I can see me in this story. So that's kind of what led me to do that. Pretty much the same thing that led me to start the nonprofit. And one day I just sat down and I started writing. I didn't write from beginning to end. I just wrote memories. I think I actually started from the day that I was sitting in the window, and praying that he didn't push me out of it. I started writing from that point. Then I jumped around. I just pulling different memories and I wrote it. And then eventually I said, okay, this looks like it might be a good book. Let's shuffle this stuff around.
Yeah.
And that's how it came to be. But it wasn't a quick process. It wasn't an easy process. It's been a 5-year journey. I
Wow.
started and stopped so many times. I quit so many times. I picked it back up. I had to stop and go to therapy because I was reliving so many
Absolutely.
things. I was
Yeah.
recalling so many things that I forgot. But it's done. It's done. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this next level of my journey. So
Yeah.
excited. So yes, from
She's an
diagnosis to
author, y'all. I'm
destiny.
excited. I cannot wait to get the book. You guys can grab the book. And one thing I really love about Lynette is that she's so honest and transparent about her journey. And your honesty is going to help prevent HIV and STIs for other women and educate them on it, and even free some women, right, who may be experiencing that in the relationship. To know, wait a minute, wait, hold on. I saw
Yep.
that Lynette, and she's living her best life. She's remarried. She's happy. I could have the same thing
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So the link for her book is actually on her Facebook and her Instagram page. Thanks for asking, Amanda. It's over on her Facebook and Instagram page. And
Yes, it's true.
I always talk about the reason that I left the night that I did with my children was because I watched a woman on YouTube similar to what we're having a conversation about right now.
Mm.
And she was in an abusive relationship. She got out and she was living her life after. And I
Yeah.
remember thinking, it was late at night, and I remember thinking, holy crap,
Yeah.
there's a life outside of this? And I literally packed my kids up that night and left. And so I
And
just want
that's
to
why that's why we share.
that's what
That's why we share
we
stories.
share.
That's the purpose of sharing a story. My husband says there's salvation in transparency.
I
We
love
save
that.
lives from sharing our stories. So yes,
Absolutely. Because it's not
go
just
get
for
it
us.
from diagnosis to destiny. It's on both my IG and my Facebook pages. You can find it in the you said what is
Go
my
get the
Facebook
book.
page? My name.
I'll
It's
put
my
that
name, Lynette Trowick.
in
I'm
the
you Inc. You can find it under any of that stuff.
and IMU Inc. I'm gonna put the Facebook back up here. And she was talking about the U equals U, the undetectable.
Undetectable equals untransmittable.
Undetectable equals untransmittable.
Yep.
It's U equals U. And I think, when you talk about, so there's going to be someone's watching, right? Or someone who can't really watch right now, Lynette, I'm guaranteed, right? Who may be able to watch later or watch tomorrow. And they're going to be like, I think I can live because I saw Lynette tell her story. Some people think that a diagnosis is the end of their life, but we're here to tell you that it's not. Look at her. She's gorgeous, happy, 11 children, has a whole husband, has a whole business, is a whole author. We're here to tell you that a diagnosis or a situation, that STI, that nothing, that doesn't mean whatever they said to you is a lie. You can live your life. And so Lynette is here to tell you that regardless of what you've experienced, whether it's HIV, STIs, abuse, domestic violence, you can live and you can thrive. Does anybody else? Oh, I saw it on Amazon. Is there somewhere you can buy it that benefits you more? Is it on Amazon too?
It actually is on Amazon. It was just put on Amazon today.
Oh, love it. Okay, I gotta put the link up in the comments. Is there somewhere that we can buy it that benefits you more than Amazon?
Actually, if you do the link that's on my Facebook and on my Instagram, you're going to get a signed copy. So you'll get that signed copy, autographed copy. Of course, you can definitely do Amazon, but you won't. It goes straight through Amazon, so it won't be a signed copy. So, but yes, use that link, pre-order. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So I have a couple questions. They're kind of the similar things. Talking about one person said, "Did your memories come to you as you started remembering?"
So as I wrote, memories came, and there's a lot of stuff that I remember that's not even in my book. They'll be in future books to come. But yeah, I recalled a lot. I actually have what is it called? Dissociation. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of memories, a lot of things that I kind of live outside of the story. I remember things as it's a story of somebody else's. But this journey of writing this book kind of put me back into it. So that's why a lot of times I had to stop and go to therapy and really deal and really process, like, wow, that was me. That wasn't something I saw on TV or, so it's writing a book isn't always, you see a lot of the write your book in 30 days kind of thing. And that's cool. But it ain't always like that. That's actually what I started out doing. I saw somebody say, oh yeah, come on, I can show you how to write a book in 30 days. I said, okay, great. 5 years later.
When you're dealing with trauma, 5 years later, especially when you're dealing with trauma, don't feel like you have to rush to talk about it. So someone here in the comments is saying that they're writing their victim impact statement and it triggers them. It sounds like a Dateline special. That's so true. And it will, as you write it in. So take your time.
Take your time.
Take your time and process. Get on the phone if you need to call someone or a therapist or an advocate to process through with you so you can get to the next section. You are literally talking about the trauma that you experienced. Absolutely.
I'm actually exploring becoming a writing coach as well for the beginning portion of people who are writing their own personal stories. So look out for that journey. They ain't happened. Not yet. Don't ask me yet.
But it's necessary, especially when you're writing through trauma, because it took you 5 years. Imagine if you had a trauma coach or someone to walk you through writing through your trauma. And it probably wouldn't have taken you that long. Anybody else? Oh, I'm missing some comments. Had any other? So much disassociation. Yes. All right. Any other questions? Questions. All right. Linda, thank you so much for joining me. I am just so proud of you. I'm thankful for your honesty and transparency in this journey. It's life-saving. And so you guys make sure you connect with her. That's her Facebook. And let me put her Instagram real quick.
Yes, and connect with my best friend. Y'all see, she got a gazillion resources. And when I tell you, she was the one that helped me through a lot of this stuff, like all of this stuff. She has a lot of resources.
Come on, best friend.
Yes, there she goes. I told you, but she created a whole clothing line when she was inspired by my story. So she actually recreated the acronym. So HIV stands for Human Inspirational Vessel, and AIDS stands for Advocates Intentionally Destroying Stigmas.
Whoa, I love that. Can you put that in the comments, best friend?
Knocked out that negative stuff. So anybody can wear that. We're all human inspirational vessels.
I love that. I love that. I love your shirt too. Rescues, redeems, restores. Jesus. Can you put that John Pernue? I love it. Look at it. And you're froze that way too. Can you put that in the comments real quick? Oh, you're welcome, Cheryl. I'm so glad that you're here. Because what it does is it changes the mindset of when you think about HIV, when you think about AIDS. It really does. I don't know if she's hearing me, but
Let me see.
I,
Let me see. Look, here go one. What's this one? These some old. These are old ones. I got the first. I got the throwback shirts. BFF. Got the
okay, perfect.
Amber.
Okay, AIDS. Advocates intentionally destroying stigmas. I love it. I love it.
Yep.
I love it because
I
it
got the
changes the
throwback.
mindset.
I'm trying to see. Let me see. Do I have the other one?
You know,
That's
because
it.
HIV before they used to call it a death sentence, and now you're living
Yeah.
your best life. They did, and so
Yep.
now it's completely different. So we want you to
Completely.
know, yeah, complete. You can live beyond anything that you've experienced. We just want you to live. So I don't know if she
Mm.
heard me, but we got that. Do you have the other one?
No, I was trying to find the other one. I don't
Okay.
have the other
You're
one.
welcome. All right, Lynette, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you guys later. See ya.
Thank you.
Oh, there it is. Oh, she's gonna come through.
Oh, there it is.
She created it to mean human inspirational vessel and aids to be advocates intentionally destroying stigmas. Let's break the stigma around HIV, around
Yeah.
STIs, and let people know that they can still live their best life
Yeah.
regardless of these. So, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
So STD support the diagnosis. Yay.
Yep.
All right,
Yep.
awesome. Thanks, you guys. Thanks, best friend. I'll see you ladies later. Okay, and you gentlemen. See ya.